viewers. Welcome back to another week of education, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and me, Courtney,
are going to talk about another horror film with one that, of course, Courtney, you have not seen, but now you have. Think of all of the check boxes you are marking off.
I know.
If you were to put together of have you seen this, 5 months ago? No, you hadn't. That's pretty solid of have you seen this movie? No. We're clicking away at them. We're going to try something a little different here, just because people, whatever. I saw a YouTube video one day earlier this week that's like, the easiest way to boost your subscriber count, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch this 2-minute video. And it really was just ask people to like and subscribe at the beginning of your video. And I'm like, okay, so if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. And just watch. Our subscribers are just going to explode because apparently people don't know how YouTube works. But we are back today to talk about The Shining, the 1980 classic Stephen King, Stanley Kubrick horror film starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. Whew, this movie. I don't know if I want to jump right into your I do. What'd you think? Without a grade, what'd you think?
Okay.
Let me preface first. I came in. Just 25 minutes ago, my wife was asking, "You think Courtney's going to like it?" And I go, "I don't know, but I'm going to say no."
And I feel bad because
it's okay.
Both movies that Jimmy has thrown out there, I'm not a fan. How is this movie even on the list of top 10 horror movies? What? Honestly, how?
Well, it's like what we talked about last week, in that I tried to preface a little bit of this movie. By far is completely, it's like situational horror.
Yeah.
It's not scary because there's skeletons and party hats. It's not scary because there's an elevator full of blood. It's a little creepy with the lady in room 237. But really where this comes about, the scariness is, for me, the isolation with someone losing their mind.
And that, yes. It's like COVID. It's like you can't leave.
Right.
We've been in Jack's spot. Not really, but I don't know, the whole time. I even Googled, why is The Shining scary?
Uh-huh.
And, there's different, I don't even remember what it said, because it was do you know why? Something, I don't even remember. So it obviously, it couldn't give a reason. So I was just and I kept in mind, they called it a psychological thriller.
Right.
But I'm nothing is scratching my psychological itch. It's not keeping me on the edge of my seat. And it wasn't that I didn't it wasn't that I didn't like it. It was just another one of those that it's it just didn't scratch the itch that I needed.
No, it's fine. Now, I will admit, I don't think I've ever found this movie scary either.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of respect for Stanley Kubrick as a director, because I think you could probably agree that this movie is one of the few movies that we have watched, during the show, where right from the get-go, I feel like our filmmaker knows exactly what he wants to put in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you look at the Possession of Hannah Grace, it felt more like we're going to set a camera up in the corner and just dance around in front of it. For this one, right from the start, where you got your opening crawl of the really bassy, deep, thematic music, while you've got a helicopter flying, it's the trip up to the Overlook.
Yes.
And it's not your typical opening credits scene.
No.
Even Halloween, where you've got, from the opening get-go, you've got somebody we don't see, their point of view, then he puts on a mask. Like, we're seeing everything from a first-person point of view, which is just, it's a feel. And it's just complete control from the filmmaker to say, I'm going to do it my way because this is how I want to do it. And so even, like I said, the opening credits, you know, it wasn't this cutaway, like, extras title sequence. It was like, no, we're just going to drop the names and the title over the imagery and the music because I don't have time for that. And so I have a ton of respect for Stanley Kubrick and his creative eye. I've seen a lot of his stuff. I know you haven't. But he really, as a director, is just, I mean, he's one of the greats. He's heralded as one of the greats. He's also heralded as arguably the most difficult director to work for ever. Because he is
he knows what he wants.
He's such a perfectionist.
Yeah.
There was something I saw of in terms of, let me see if I could find it here really quick. Probably not. But like there were issues even on set between Shelley Duvall, because like he would have her do a take like 130 times.
Okay, so I do remember, because after it was over, like I looked up just like a bunch of things on TikTok, and like it was talking about how like she almost went crazy because him and stuff like that, and like it was just so just dragging out of everything. And like backtrack for a second, it's not that I didn't like it. I think it's because it's the hype of how scary this movie is, because like I asked Casey and he's like, no, like that's supposed to be such a scary movie, and it's like, okay, 2 hours later I'm still not. So I think that's why, because
I get it.
Yes, it just wasn't scary like the top 10 lists say it is.
Oh no, I get it. And like I said, it doesn't surprise me. Like I said, when my wife had asked what you thought, I'm like, I really don't know. I hope she likes it only because it really is a great movie. But in terms of, like, are you gonna? There are no jump scares,
right? You know, and that, you know me, the younger, what our classics are, The Conjuring and things like that.
Oh yeah, we've talked about it. But, yeah, because this movie is on the IMDb top 250 movies. This is the 61st highest rated movie of all time. According to people on the website, there are only 60 movies ever made better than this one.
Which is just mind-blowing.
It's sandwiched right in there between 1957's Paths of Glory and 1940's The Great Dictator. Other movies around here that you may... WALL-E is a little bit ahead of it. The first Indiana Jones is ahead of that. Aliens is behind it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The Dark Knight Rises. You know, so there's more recent movies around there. But this is sitting at an 8.4. So, like, 84% of the people, out of, or no, I won't say that. Out of 10, I mean, it's got 8.4. That's pretty solid.
It is.
But no, it's, I do. I really enjoy the movie. I enjoy, like I said, just the complete control. Stephen King hated this movie, by the way, because Stanley Kubrick took a Stephen King story and made it a Stanley Kubrick movie, as opposed to a Stephen King movie. But no, some of the imagery, the sounds, the music for me.
The music was like, I want to say, like what millennials would say is like chef's kiss. Like,
that's fair.
I'm cringing saying that. That's the first time I've ever said that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I feel that way when the phrase "butt hurt" comes into my mind. I'm like, no, you're not saying that.
Yeah. The music, it was like you could like put yourself in there, like something's going to happen. Like something has to happen because the music is speeding up. The soundtrack was very good in this movie. The
biggest issue, and I said this, I've said it for years. My biggest issue with this movie, and as much as I adore Jack Nicholson as an actor, I think Jack Nicholson always comes off a little crazy anyway. And so even before he goes crazy in this movie, he already looks crazy.
Yes.
And so I won't say it's less believable, but you just like, we're not watching a mild-mannered, normal guy go nuts. We're watching somebody that already has that look in his eye.
Yes.
Go nuts. And it's like, well, it's no surprise, Ed, because look at him. He's already a little nuts.
He was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as Randall. Like, yes, he is nuts. That's one of my favorites. I love that movie.
He was the Joker in their first Batman movie because he's nuts. Like, it's Jack Nicholson. He's nuts. Mm-hmm. He's made a career of being nuts. And so I felt like they played their hand a little bit there. Like, well, let's give him somebody that's nuts. But anyway, it doesn't surprise me. And you don't back down from your opinion. It's totally fine. I didn't make the movie. I'm not offended.
I never want Jenny to quit, like, recommending movies, though.
She brought The Strangers to the table.
Oh, yes, she did. And that one was really good.
So, no, it's good. So, well, a little bit, we've been bouncing back and forth. For those of you that may not have seen The Shining, we'll kind of go through the plot a little bit here. We start with the Overlook Hotel closes down for the winter. It closes down every winter. And because they close down, they bring in somebody as a caretaker for about 5 months. And that's where we meet Jack Torrance in the opening credits. He's driving his little yellow car up the mountains all the way to the Overlook Hotel, basically for an interview. He meets with them. Stuart Ullman, the manager, not the owner of the hotel, but the manager, that meets with him, basically has an interview, and we find out, Jack is the, former school teacher, full-time writer, and this is perfect for him and his family. If it works out, I'll be here and I get to finish writing and it'll be great. He is notified, though, before he leaves. He basically gets the job because it doesn't seem like a job with a ton of applicants.
No.
So as long as he fits the bill and he's willing to do the work, he gets the job. But he is notified before he leaves that a previous caretaker, not the previous caretaker, which is another big question mark I had for the movie, that a previous caretaker did go crazy and killed his family and himself in the hotel. But that happened years ago. It didn't happen last year or the year before that, which made me always wonder, like, who's been the winter caretaker since Grady went nuts?
And, like, did they not go nuts?
Right. It's like, why didn't you just keep bringing that person back?
Exactly.
Meanwhile, down in Boulder, Colorado, Jack's family, Danny and his wife, Wendy, are just at home in their little apartment or whatever. Danny has an imaginary friend. I forget what's he called, or Tony.
Yes,
Tony.
And Tony sounds like the little guy off of Little Rascals.
Yes, yeah.
Hey guys.
Yeah, exactly. Tony is who he sounds like. And so Danny's got, as he says, Wendy thinks he's got an imaginary friend, but Danny is like, he's the man he's the little guy that lives in my mouth. And he makes me talk. And it is a little creepy, but again, he's young enough, you chalk it up.
Yes.
And so he's having a seizure. He's seeing things that he's never seen before in his thoughts. He's seeing an empty hallway with blood flowing out of a elevator. He's seeing a pair of twin girls that are just kind of staring at him. And again he starts seizing. They bring a doctor in because, of course, your kid just seizing isn't normal. We find out a little bit about Jack's history of a drinker. Jack was previously an alcoholic until he had an incident where he dislocated Danny's shoulder while he was drunk. And that was where Jack decided, I'm done drinking. He vows to not have another drop.
And he's been like 5 months sober.
Yeah. So it's legit.
Yeah,
he's dedicated to it. And so we got the family. They get the job, and they head up to the Overlook. There's really not a whole lot going on at home other than just introducing their characters. They head up to the Overlook. They get a tour of the place. Jack's meeting with Ullman. Another thing that Jenny pointed out while watching is we see them driving up, right? They've got their car. We see overhead shots of them driving up. Yet when they get to the hotel, they've got like 85 suitcases stacked up You know, and
they had a really big trunk.
That's right. I told her, I said, that's why Danny couldn't sit down the whole trip. That's why he had to like hover over mom and dad's shoulder, because we had to make room for all the bags. But yeah, they had all of these bags. She's like, where did all those go? But they, you know, so Jack's meeting with Ullman just to kind of go over some rules. Stay out of room 237. We get that in a little bit. As Wendy and Danny meet Dick Halloran, the chef, the head chef of the Overlook, played by
I liked him.
Played by Scatman Crothers is his name. Danny he's kind of looking at Dick, and Dick's talking to Wendy, and then Dick starts talking to Danny.
This part was kind of like, ooh, what?
Yeah.
Because it's like, while Dick's talking, and like you said, like, he looks over and he's like, you want some ice cream?
Yeah. But he's talking to Wendy.
Yeah. And it's like, he's got two faces going right there.
He's very telepathic.
And, I'm like, oh, okay.
And so, he calls him Doc, to where Wendy's like, how'd you know his name's Doc? Well, Dick, it's like this, kind of like we mentioned in Stir of Echoes episode of Dick has a power and Danny has a power, but they don't really share that they have powers with other people.
Yeah.
But of course, Danny is so young, he doesn't realize he has a power. Dick sees the shining, is what he calls it. He said they can shine. That's what they call it. So Wendy heads off. Dick and Danny sit down and have some ice cream. And that's when basically Dick just tells Danny, hey, this place has also got the shining. You know, there's some bad things that have happened here. This hotel, it'll talk to you, and stay out of room 237. Which
I did read that in this hotel, they changed it because they didn't want anyone like never wanting that room.
Of course, which makes sense. So, it's how a lot of skyscrapers, they skip the 13th floor. It goes from 12 to 14, which to me as a numbers guy, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
There's still a 13th floor there. You just don't call it floor 13.
Exactly. Like you call it 14.
Yeah, it's like, so here it's like, oh, let's change 235. Let's change room 237 to 239.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Which is why it drives me nuts when you are driving, when you're looking for a house on a road and like the house numbers, just put them in order.
Yes.
110, 111, 112, 113. Just do that. It drives me nuts. I understand there's parcel lands, but whatever. Just come on, like
100%. Because ours is 916, and then we own the lot next to us, which is 920. But then the next house is 924.
Right.
And then
why?
I'm like, why are we skipping like fours? Like, where's 918? Where's what?
What? And like, we live at the end of a cul-de-sac, so the house to our right has an even number. But the house to our left has an odd number, which where do things turn around at a cul-de-sac? Like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I don't mail things to my neighbors, but it's still the point.
Yes.
So everybody's gone for the season except for the Torrances. They're back, and this is where the hotel basically is just like, hey, there's some new people here. Let's screw with them. Starting with Danny.
He's riding his little bike. And that would be, I tell you what, that would be like heaven. I mean, just to have the entire like hotel to yourself and your little tricycle. Yes, sign me up. But he comes across these twins, and he is like sees them murdered.
And it's all vision. Like he doesn't see them being murdered.
Correct.
It's like he's like you said, he's driving around. I love the sound in this too. When he's going from carpet to hardwood, because it's just, that's the only sound. There's no music. It's just him pedaling, and then the carpet muffled, and then he hits, and it's just, and we just watch him go on and on and on. Kudos to the cameraman too. I imagine him also on a big wheel tricycle, like with a with a handlebar mounted camera,
just like the little GoPro on him. the noise reminded me of when it's pouring rain and you drive under a bridge.
Yeah.
And it stops,
yeah.
It stops for a second because it was like when he was on the carpet, it was quiet.
Yeah.
I love doing that in a car.
Yep.
So it was really neat.
Yeah. So, but it's just completely intentional sound design here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like he's just driving this loop repeatedly through the kitchen, etc. And then he comes around a corner that he's been past 2 or 3 times already.
Yeah.
And that there the twins are. He'd already seen them once. But there they are. And then like just this look of horror on his face. We cut back and there they are just like laying there dead, all bloody, hacked up. And so, like the hotel decides we're gonna mess with Danny full speed ahead, but we're gonna play the long game with Jack. And so, you know, Jack is spending a lot of time by himself. You get the vibe he's just hit some writer's block.
Yeah.
He spends a lot of time kind of in the grand entry way on his typewriter, just typing away. Gets really irritated with Wendy anytime she ever comes.
Yeah,
which to be honest, love Shelley Duvall. I think she's an extremely underrated actress, but man, does she know how to play obnoxious.
Okay, I'm happy you say that, and I am a big like mouth person. Like
you like big mouths.
That's the first thing I notice about everyone is like your teeth, your smile. Like I love to look at it.
Yeah.
And when it came to her, and I was like, oh,
there's a lot to look at.
It's her whole face.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's nothing that she can control. Like, but it is. It's like that was just like, seriously.
Yeah.
Wow.
To be fair though, like she really is a great. She's a great actress.
She was just I agree with you because you could tell just like how nurturing and how much like she really loved like her kid and all of that. You could tell that.
Yeah. It should be of no surprise. She was actually 80s were really good to her. It shouldn't surprise you at all that when there was a live action Popeye movie made back in 1980, she played Olive Oyl. Which again, I'm assuming maybe I shouldn't assume you know what Popeye and Olive Oyl are.
I do.
Okay. but yeah, so like she played Olive Oyl, which she's built perfectly for it. She was in this. She was in what's the name of that movie? Give me a second, I'll find it. Three Women. Also directed by the guy who directed Popeye. I would say Three Women came out in '77. Probably my favorite role of hers. It's got her and Sissy Spacek. She played Carrie in Carrie. It's this. We're kind of sidetracking here, but whatever. It's this really dynamic role where you've got these three women that are all extremely different personality-wise, and two of them, Duvall and Sissy Spacek, are roommates. But as the movie progresses, like their personalities slowly change places, where Sissy Spacek is the very quiet, reserved roommate, and Shelley Duvall's is the very boisterous, social. But you don't even really notice the transition until it's completely done, and then you're almost blindsided by it. Like, wait a minute, like an hour ago,
what just happened?
Yeah, it's such a good movie. I have to revisit that one. It's a good one. But no, I feel Shelley Duvall doesn't get her props here. She does play a very caring, nurturing mother. But again, how do you play the spouse of somebody who has already injured your child at a drunken rage and is also just on the cusp of losing it all the time? So I feel like she does play it very carefully, which is how you'd have to act around a person like that.
Yeah, she is eggshells all the time.
However, when things go full terror later on, like I think she nails it 100%.
She does.
Like that, she pulls every ounce. I mean, Kubrick pulls every ounce of fear out of this woman. Like,
yeah.
And so it's just it's building up. Like, you could tell Jack's mental state is just breaking down. I will say he's violent towards his family, but he's getting more frustrated when she comes to talk to him. You see him throwing a tennis ball against the wall for like hours at a time. He has dreams of killing his family. Like, it's just, he's, again, dropping off the deep end here. Go ahead.
And this is like where he's at the point where he just needs a drink because his mental health is like going so downhill that he walks into the new like ballroom that they had just redecorated, walks up to the bar that is empty.
Of course it is. And they told him at the beginning, we clear all the alcohol out.
Yes.
And he's like, that's good because I don't touch the stuff.
Yeah. And he's like, I'd sell my soul for a beer right now. And that is like where I feel like he definitely sold his soul and went downhill.
Right, yeah. Danny, again, riding his trike around. He's on the second floor now. And as he drives by room 237, he stops and looks because he realizes where he's at.
Yeah.
And then the door opens. Mm-hmm. And it cuts away, and we don't see what happens. But Wendy finds him, and you could tell he's been physically abused.
Yeah.
So, understandably so, I'm married to a man who has physically abused our child once. He's also losing it, and he's the only other person in the entire hotel.
Yeah.
So of course Jack did it. To which Danny is like, but Danny basically owns up. No, it was the lady in 237.
Yeah. It was at this point I was like, wait, did I miss something?
No.
Because like Wendy's like, telling Jack finally about it, and I was like, did I miss the woman in 237?
No, but you hadn't yet. And so nobody, of course, again, nobody believes Danny. Wendy does because she suspects it's Jack. Danny says it's the lady in 237, which, of course, she freaks out. There's somebody else in the hotel.
Yes.
There's somebody else in the hotel. So Jack, all right, I'll go investigate it. He thinks his son's full of it. It's like he did it to himself.
Yeah.
Which, no, you don't do that stuff to yourself. So Jack goes to investigate 237. And for me, this scene creeps me out. This scene creeps me out big time.
I thought that this scene was so... I liked it. I liked the grossness of it.
Yeah.
And it's like you've got this nude, naked model.
Yeah.
And it's like she's got like nice hands. You can see her fingers wrap around.
She's very tall.
Yes. It's like she is straight from like a Victoria's Secret magazine. Like, she gets up, got a full shot of her, and she comes over, and like Jack had expressed to the bartender, the imaginary bartender, that him and his lady were having some issues.
Yeah.
So it's like, when this young, attractive girl comes up to you naked,
and it's even more, it's the hotel messing with him.
Yes.
Because he had, like you said, he'd already been at the bar. The ghost bartender showed up. And he's just doing what you do to a bartender. Like Jack hasn't even processed. We're backpedaling just a little. Hasn't even processed that he's talking to a ghost.
Yeah.
Like he's fine with it because hits an outlet. So again, is it a figment of his imagination? Is it really happening? Like you said, then he revealed me and the old lady having a problem or whatever. And then suddenly this beautiful nude woman shows up. Of like, it's the hotel just peppering you with this. One of my favorite shots in the movie is Jack goes into 237. All the lights are on. Like, everything's lit up in this place, which is odd because part of Jack's job is to cycle different parts of the hotel with electricity. Yeah. So that the whole hotel isn't lit up at once. So Jack goes and this place looks lived in. And he, like you said, he goes into the bathroom and the curtain is half covering the bathtub. And then you just see this hand like pull the curtain back. And there she is. And as she gets up and steps out to where you see her fully, the camera cuts back to Jack's face. And he perfectly does it.
Yeah, yeah.
This look at first of sheer terror, and then just his face slowly molds into happiness.
Yeah,
like,
he's like, yes.
Yes, bring it on. So she brings it on.
And they are like full force making out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoo, what's happened? Like, I'm thinking he's gonna, like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be nobody. Like, he's...
be kissing yeah. No, he opens his eyes and looks in the mirror, and she is just... She's
an old hag. I mean, there's really no other way.
Yes.
Just, just bed sores.
And they're oozy, gray, discolored, like she had been in that water for a long time.
Well, then they keep splicing back and forth, because as he backs away, again, with a look of even more terror on his face, and she's coming at him, I hope that this old lady that went fully nude for this role, I hope she was the highest paid person in the film, because she bared it all.
She did.
And so she's coming after him, laughing and cackling, but then they cut back to her laying in the, submerged in water, and just her skin's flaky, and it's just so gross.
Yeah.
Stephen King has a thing for writing nasty looking people coming at you. Zelda from a couple weeks ago, this old lady in 237 now, and so it's just disgusting,
And I loved it when he opened his eyes and saw in the mirror like her huge back covered in that gray mucusy looking nastiness. Oh yeah.
And then this is when I jumped the gun a little bit. This is when Jack comes back to Wendy and then blames Danny. He did it himself.
Yes.
There's nothing in 237. It's totally fine. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So Jack goes back to the gold room. It's his only place of solace. And he continues. He's drinking again.
And
with Lloyd. Lloyd's the bartender's name.
Mm-hmm. And a party.
Yeah, people
is happening. People
start showing up.
Yeah, and they're dressed like they're from the movie The Great Gatsby.
Yeah, they're dressed from the 20s.
Yes, and he gets a drink. It's like he's going to go mingle or something, and a waiter bumps into him, making a mess.
Yeah.
So of course, the waiter is like, "Nope, let me take you to the bathroom, clean you up," and he's like, "Yeah, my name's Delbert Grady." And that's when Jack's like, wait.
Yeah. It hits him, which is odd because Jack, nobody else is in the hotel.
Yes.
And yet you're at this party and it doesn't even seem off,
No.
He's lost. He's just lost his mind. But like you said, this part where the man helping him is Grady, the previous caretaker who we mentioned had already murdered his family. He hadn't done it yet, obviously. Mm-hmm. He alludes to it a little bit.
But he hadn't... Yeah, but he ended up, they said that he shot himself, so you couldn't, see that on him yet. But yes. They're in the bathroom. That is, all red.
Yeah. Your favorite color.
Ugh. And I'm like... I don't know why I dislike that color so much, but it's it was everywhere in the movie. I'm like, man, red must have really been a color in the 80s. Come on, people. But yeah, and Jack has been told by Grady that Danny is bringing in this outside source.
Yeah. And it was 1980, so they just went ahead and used the worst terminology possible.
Yes. And that, Jack, you gotta fix the problem.
Yeah, you need to correct your wife and child.
Yeah, and so Jack's like, of course, I'll do it.
So
let me hack him up.
Yeah. So Jack then proceeds to. He really splits from his family here. He goes out of his way to, over the course of the rest of the movie, he takes out the snowcat. The really the very large snowmobile access. He breaks the radio, not all at once, but it's over the course of things.
Yeah.
He's doing everything to eliminate the possibility of outside contact. And this is what Grady was talking about, because Danny he telepathically links with Halloran, who's down in Florida. and what might be the greatest decorated room of all time.
I mean, he's single.
Oh yeah.
As he's.
I love it. He's just laying in bed watching his TV. He's got fully nude portraits of his African queen all over, with a gigantic afro, which is so awesome. He's just chilling, and it's like those extra pieces of they lay a lot to who the characters are without having to show who the characters are. So Danny's trying to communicate with with Halloran.
Yeah, and he's like laying in bed like.
Right.
I mean,
he kind of
seizing.
Yeah, I was gonna say he kind of has that same seizure feel because he's seeing things also. Wendy finally gets into Jack's manuscript at the typewriter because anytime she gets close, Jack just shoos her away, and he's got this stack of 200 typed pages.
Yeah, he's surpassed his writing block now. He's got it, and but it's going to be the most boring book ever because all it says is all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
That's it. That's all it says. Line after line after line, hundreds and hundreds of times, with different formats, it's all over.
And Jack finds her, and he's come at her now.
Yeah.
She's got this baseball bat, does what she has to do, knocks him unconscious, drags him into the pantry.
Yeah.
And she and Danny are going to leave.
Right.
And she informs Jack of that, and that's where we find out, that he's done this is where it shows,
you're staying here.
Everything that he's done. Surprise, you're not leaving.
Right.
And Danny is having, I don't know, he's little possession.
Yeah, he's going into another little spasm. Yeah, he keeps yelling. It's Tony. Tony keeps yelling, Red Rob, Red Rob, Red Rob. He's writing it on the door in lipstick, and he's just freaking out, big time. Mirrors play a big role in this movie, because as Wendy is consoling Danny, trying to get him to calm down, she looks over his shoulder into a mirror. Mm-hmm. The way that Jack looked over the lady's shoulder into the mirror.
Yeah.
And she sees that red rum is the word murder spelled backwards.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's now kind of a race against the clock. But Wendy feels somewhat safe because, again, we've got Jack locked up.
Yeah.
Well, Grady goes in the hotel, really.
Yeah.
The hotel frees Jack. Grady frees Jack, and now he has an axe to go after Wendy and Danny.
Yeah.
It had been snowing like crazy, so Danny gets to, Wendy has Danny escape through a second floor window down this huge snowbank. Wendy, all she has is a knife, and she's trapped in the bathroom, and Jack comes in. And what probably the most famous part of this movie, because he takes this axe to the door, splits it. It's just the look of pure terror on her face.
So I read that this was not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Or and that all of the terror in her face was real.
Really?
The tears were real, and that she was yelling out Jack, his real name, because she thought that he had gone crazy from filming it.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me. She did.
Now, if that's true or not, I just read it.
Right.
But yeah,
if you saw it on the internet, it's true.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess I'm speaking that into existence, so now it's definitely true.
Right.
But which made it even cooler, looking back on it, because it's wow, that was she was scared for her life there.
Yeah, big time. And you could tell, it's just she wore it on her face. And so he breaks through, starts to unlock the door. She takes a knife to his hand. She just slices him. But it's enough to kind of broke him from his trance for a moment. And so, meanwhile, Dick Halloran is trying to be the hero.
Yeah.
Like, all the way from Florida, he realizes, because Danny's been in contact with him with The Shining, so he gets himself all the way to the Overlook. He gets a hold of a guy, gets Snowcat, makes the drive up. Like, everything is building up for Dick to be the hero. Everything. Dick gets to the hotel, and while he's just walking through the lobby, kind of hollering for the family. Doesn't even have his coat off. Like, he doesn't even really. You almost feel like he's not even really there yet.
Yeah.
Like, he's there, but he has no concept of what's actually going on at the moment. And then out behind a pillar steps Jack, buries that axe into his chest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Dick's done. Like, all of that effort to get up there, and he's wiped out. Like, the hotel has fully got its hands on Jack as to be this murderous rampager. And so that leaves their Snowcat. Like, that, you almost feel like, in hindsight, the only reason Dick got up there was to provide another exit.
Yes.
Meanwhile, one thing we didn't mention is this hotel has this gigantic labyrinth hedge maze. Danny's taken off into the hedge maze. Jack goes in after him. Wendy goes back into the hotel looking for Danny. That's when she starts to see everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like almost like this parlor trick. Like, she goes back into the hotel, and the hotel's like, all right, boys, let's give it to her. You know, and like, everywhere she turns, she's seeing the blood out of, like, the things that Danny's been seeing all along.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy is now being shown, like, without The Shining. This is just the hotel making it all real. Which makes you think, like, is Wendy losing her mind, or is the hotel really this, like, demonic and just terrible? And so, Danny makes the smart move of, he kind of covers his tracks in the snow, and he gets Jack lost in the maze, works his way back out as he is hidden behind a snowdrift, and then Jack's trapped in the maze. Wendy and Danny get in the Snowcat and take off. And Jack freezes to death. Like, it cuts to one last shot of him, like, just frozen stiff.
Yeah, and this like, picture, I thought that it was from, like, a funny movie or something of him being frozen.
Oh, right.
Because he reminds me of the guy on Me, Myself, and Irene.
Oh, Jim Carrey?
Yeah, like, I don't know why, but he reminds me of him there, and as he cut through and he's like, Johnny's here.
Right.
In the door, I'm like, he looks like Jim Carrey there.
Yeah, well, Jim Carrey did a lot of early career stuff, especially on In Living Color. Like, he does a really good Jack Nicholson impression. And so, you know, that you're not too far off. Like,
good.
Jim Carrey can do the eyebrow thing, and he does a really good Jack Nicholson impression. So that's probably why he reminds you as much as he does.
And we are taken back into the hotel right before the movie ends, and there's this photograph in the hallway. And it's from, like, 1920, 21, and zooms in. There's a whole crowd of people, and there's Jack standing front and center.
Yep, front and center. He's part of the hotel now.
Yeah.
And
so it's like, I wonder if those are all the people that have been taken.
Like, yeah, and I think that's left to just be ambiguous. Like I said, is it a collection of all the people that have gone crazy at the Overlook? Is it all the party goers that have showed up at the Gold Room when he was drinking, and then Grady was talking to him, and now he's part of that? I mean, you know, it's who knows? Yeah. But it just shows that it's just kind of like that Jack was going to be there all the time. Like, it's just, you know, predetermined that this is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And that is The Shining. That's The Shining. Again, not surprised you didn't. I won't say you didn't care for it, but I could see this being a much more effective horror film in 1980.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of these, like, top lists kind of lose their luster. Is there's constantly new movies churning out all the time, and people have different flavors. And so, like, is this movie on the scariest movies of all time list because it's supposed to be? Or is it there because it really, truly does scare the people putting those lists together? Who knows? But you got 2 Stephen King movies in the last month, so.
Yeah. As I went to the library Monday, I thought, you know what, I should do a Stephen King. But then I'm like, those are so big.
Yeah.
And I'm not a reader, so.
They do read pretty quick, though. I'll give you that. Because there's not a lot of, like, heavy language, like you really have to wrap your brain around it. It is pretty straightforward. But they are big. They are big.
Yeah.
So let's get to the grading portion of the show. As a kindergarten teacher, how would you grade this movie?
I'm going to give it a B-.
Oh, that's higher than I expected.
Yes, only because like I said, like I didn't dislike it. It just didn't scratch my itch for horror.
Mm-hmm.
And the music was really good. A lot of, like you had said, like the intentional things were good.
Yeah.
So yeah, B-.
Fair enough. I'm going to give it an A-. Again, I was born in 79. This is one of those movies that has always been there since I've been aware of things. I have a lot of respect for Stanley Kubrick as a filmmaker. Just some absolutely gorgeous movies. 2001: A Space Odyssey is a great film. Arguably the greatest science fiction movie ever made. A Clockwork Orange is an extremely ultra-violent movie that really is tame by comparison to a lot of things today. But at the time was very shocking. But also just the guy knows what he wants to put on screen and is not going to stop until it's there. And so I have a lot of respect for that. And so I'm going to give it an A- just because I really think it's a great film. There are a lot of unanswered questions, and there are a lot of things that, like I kind of mentioned, like Jack Nicholson already looks crazy. So bringing him on board is, you're tipping your hand a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. They did do a remake of this as a television, like, mini-series.
Is that the Room 237?
No, it's called The Shining. I think it came out in like 90-something. They also did a sequel to this. 1997 is the miniseries, starring Steven Weber and Rebecca De Mornay, names that you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Mm-mm.
Directed by Mick Garris, another name you have no idea what I'm talking about. If I remember correctly, Stephen King liked this miniseries better than the movie. He felt it was more, it honored his book a little bit more. Okay. And Steven Weber is not, he's not a crazy looking actor. And on top of it, like in 1997, they used a lot more special effects than they did in 1980. But yeah, it's like 3 hours. And then there is a sequel to this movie that came out just a couple of years ago called Dr. Sleep.
Yes, I saw that.
Oh, you did see it?
Well, like I didn't see it, but I saw it listed. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is, it's based on, like, Stephen King wrote a novel, Dr. Sleep, as a sequel to The Shining. It deals with a grown-up Danny Torrance. And so he still has The Shining and et cetera, et cetera. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm curious because I like it. So yeah, that's my grade. B- for you, A- for me. Educational lessons.
This one's a little hard for... These are harder than I thought they would be. Why don't you go first?
All right. I would say taking a lesson that applies in this movie, but also expanding it into the educational world. If you are a parent with a significant other, I highly recommend any decision that you're going to make that impacts your child, discuss it, collaborate on it, talk it through, make sure it's a good fit. I get the vibe that Jack was going to pursue this job whether Wendy wanted him to or not, because it worked best for him. And obviously it did not work out for the family. But Wendy being kind of meek, I have a feeling that that's just the dynamic of this relationship. Jack does what Jack wants to do, and Wendy just goes along with it because she loves him, and she's going to feel bad leaving him. But to take it, into the educational world, it's very difficult for us teachers when we're making contact with parents or guardians to get both of them on the phone at the same time. And so 9 times out of 10, the things that we're contacting home about are more just newsworthy. Your kid's had a great day, your kid did great on this test, or your kid's been kind of a butt. But if there are any conversations brought to your feet in regards to something about your child, talk about it with your significant other. Make it a group decision. Weigh out the pros and cons before you make a jump. And especially, don't go be a caretaker of an abandoned, snowed-in hotel for 5 months with only one child. So that's my educational lesson. What do you got?
I agree with that. Mine is not really into the classroom.
That's all right.
But to me, like, Jack is very, in this movie, like, narcissistic, most abusive. And it's like, even if you think you can't, like, please leave. Don't just stay in a relationship like that because your kid. Because it's like, we as teachers see that. Like, your kid knows they suffer through it. So please do not stay with someone, who is a raging alcoholic and has injured your child and just comes off as, a narcissist.
Yeah.
Like, don't stay with them, especially just because you have kids. Because, like you said, like, Wendy was just, she's just kind of a pushover. And whatever Jack wanted, it went. But it's like, I see too many times in the system, like, kids are like, yeah, my mommy and daddy are fighting again. Right. Or like, yeah, my mommy's mean to my dad, or vice versa. Yeah. Like, it's unfortunate because it does affect your child a lot.
Yeah, a relationship should be about loving each other, not I can't leave him because I love him, even though he's mean to me and beats our kid. You deserve to be loved too. So, well put. Well, it's that time of the show where we pick another movie, and we kind of talked about this already, but
yes.
I think we have somebody who wants to be a guest on our show.
And I love it.
Yeah. Preface, last weekend my daughter went to a slumber party. Post-COVID, she doesn't go to a lot of slumber parties, just because it's kind of disrupted the preteen ritualistic blah, blah, blah. But she went to a slumber party last week, and she'd asked me because they were talking about watching a particular scary movie, a movie that my daughter had not seen, really in a genre she had not seen. And so she really hasn't seen much horror, and she asked about it, and I'm like, yeah, that would be okay. Even though, yes, it's rated R, and there's some violence, and there's some language. The biggest thing we were worried about was, like, nudity and sex scenes, because that's just... She's 12. We haven't tackled that just yet. And so I figured you'll be safe here because there's nothing happening on screen. Like The Shining, no, you're not going to watch The Shining. Simply because of the woman in room 237. And so, so she watched it, and I would say in this last week she's probably watched this movie 2 more times, and
I love it,
and has a Pinterest board going. And she is fully devoted to this. So she had asked me if we would cover it on the show and if she could be a guest. And so next week we will be watching the original Scream with Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox, and my daughter will be a guest. So we will have my daughter Ella on the show as a guest. I have no idea where this is going. I could say. I don't know if it's going to be the 2 of us and a third face on screen, or this could end up being a 3-hour episode. I have no idea.
I was going to say, I could see her getting on here and just being like, hi.
Yeah.
And then just looking at us the whole time.
Yep.
But I could also see her just diving in.
Lately, if it's anything, granted, a week from now completely changes things in a 12-year-old life. But... lately, it has been a chore trying to get her to stop talking. Like, I popped in this morning, she was on her bed crocheting. I'm like, hey, good morning, kiddo. And I think I stood there for like 3 or 4 minutes. As she just... Jenny did the same thing. Pops in, good morning. And it was like 5 minutes. I finally heard Jenny say, I'm leaving now. And and Ella's chasing her out the door. No, wait, no, I want to talk to you. But no, she's excited. She's very nervous. She's just because she doesn't know what to expect. I told her I'll probably have her like up in her room on her Chromebook, so that I can get her separate footage and we're not smashed together here next to each other, sharing a microphone. I think that'll be easier for the three of us to navigate. So, but yeah, we will be back. Have you seen Scream, the original?
I haven't. I've seen like bits and pieces.
I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah, but I have not seen it. No.
Well, and I think because I've seen the sixth one just came out in theaters. I've seen the first 5, and they're all. I won't say they're all the same, but in terms of they're all about the same level of appropriateness. There's no nudity in any of them. There's no like gratuitous sex scenes in any of them. So I feel like if I'm gonna let her watch part 1, she could probably carry through the rest of the series without any issues, which could become a fun little recurring guest spot of, watch the first one, come on the show, we'll chat about it, and I have her back in a few weeks with part 2 or something. I think we'll see how episode 1 goes. But yeah, we will be back next week to watch Scream with my daughter Ella. So I hope you're ready for the 12-year-old perspective on things, listeners and viewers, because you're going to get it.
It'll be neat because it's like you were my teacher. Yeah. I was one of Ella's teachers. Yeah. So it's like a little generational thing.
Yeah, it is a little bit, isn't it? Nice. So, that's where we're at now is... I'm only 43. That's not old. But when you're like, I taught you and you taught my daughter, and now my daughter is going to be in junior high next year. But no, I'm not that old. But all right, so that's it. That's what we're going to do. Scream for next week with Ella. We'll see how it goes. I know she's nervous. It may end up just being the two of us doing Scream. If she gets on there and just clams up, we may say, if this isn't, no, I'm going to make her do it. No, if you want to do it, if you're going to do it, you're going to commit to it, and we'll just talk to her. So she'll be fine. I have a feeling that she'll just get to rattling away. So, all right. Well, social media wise, you guys know where to find us: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can listen to this as a podcast on any of your favorite podcast apps. Which clearly, if you're listening to it as a podcast, you already know that. But yeah, just click like, subscribe down below. We did ask last week when I put it on Facebook if people, hey, just share it. If anybody just share it. My mom did, so there you go. we got one person to share it out of the ordinary, but I have a feeling it's going to just explode after we get a 12-year-old on the show.
Yeah.
She'll have
by a bunch of 12-year-old girls.
That's fine. I don't care.
And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah, it's a clean PG podcast. It's fine.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, you got anything to send them out with?
No, I just have a wonderful week.
All right. Spring is among us tomorrow.
Yes.
As of recording date, tomorrow is the first day of spring. So, yay. But yeah, we'll be back next week with Scream. For Deducation, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.